Part 13. In all drama which would give direct expression to reverie, to the speech of the soul with itself, there is some device that checks the rapidity of dialogue. When Oedipus speaks out of the most vehement passions, he is conscious of the presence of the chorus, men before whom he must keep up appearances, children latest born of Cadmus' line, who do not share his passion. Nobody is hurried or breathless. We listen to reports and discuss them, taking part, as it were, in a council of state. Nothing happens before our eyes. The dignity of Greek drama, and in a lesser degree of that Corneille and Racine, depends, as contrasted with the troubled life of Shakespearean drama, on an almost even speed of dialogue, and on a so continuous exclusion of the animation of common life that thought remains lofty and language rich. Shakespeare, upon whose stage everything may happen, even the blinding of Gloucester, and who has no formal check except what is implied in the slow, elaborate structure of blank verse, obtains time for reverie by an often encumbering euphuism, and by such a loosening of his plot as will give his characters the leisure to look at life from without. Maeterlinck, to name the first modern of the old way who comes to mind, reaches the same end by choosing instead of human beings persons who are as faint as a breath upon a looking-glass, symbols who can speak a language slow and heavy with dreams because their own life is but a dream. Modern drama, on the other hand, which accepts the tightness of the classic plot while expressing life directly, has been driven to make indirect its expression of the mind, which it leaves to be inferred from some commonplace sentence or gesture as we infer it in ordinary life. And this is, I believe, the cause of the perpetual disappointment of the hope imagined this 100 years that France or Spain or Germany or Scandinavia would at last produce the master we await. The divisions in the arts are almost all in the first instance technical, and the great schools of drama have been divided from one another by the form or the metal of their mirror, by the check chosen for the rapidity of dialogue. Synge found the check that suited his temperament in an elaboration of the dialects of Kerry and Arran. The cadence is long and meditative, as befits the thought of men who are much alone, and who, when they meet in another's houses, as their way is at the day's end, listen patiently, each man speaking in turn and for some little time, and taking pleasure in the vaguer meaning of the words and in their sound. Their thought, when not merely practical, is as full of traditional wisdom and extravagant pictures as that of some Aeschylean chorus, and no matter what the topic is, it is as though the present were held at arm's length. It is the reverse of rhetoric, for the speaker serves his own delight, though doubtless he would tell you that Rafferty's whiskey drinking it was but for the company's sake. A medicinal manner of speech too, for it could not even express, so little abstract it is and so rammed with life, those worn generalizations of national propaganda. I'll be telling you the finest story you'd hear any place, from Dundalk to Ballinacree, with great queens in it, making themselves matches from the start to the end, and they with shiny silks on them. I've a grand story of the great queens of Ireland, with white necks on them like that of Sarah Casey, and fine arms would hit you a slap. What good am I this night, God help me? What good are the grand stories I have, when its few would listen to an old woman? Few but a girl, maybe, would be in great fear the time her hour was come, or a little child wouldn't be sleeping with the hunger on a cold night. That has the flavour of Homer, of the Bible, of Villon, while Cervantes would have thought it sweet in the mouth, though not as food. This use of Irish dialect for noble purposes by Synge, and by Lady Gregory, who had it already in her Cuchulainn of Muirthemne, and by Dr. Hyde in those first translations he has not equalled since, has done much for national dignity. When I was a boy, I was often troubled and sorrowful because Scottish dialect was capable of noble use, but the Irish of obvious roistering humour only. And this error, fixed on my imagination by so many novelists and rhymers, made me listen badly. Synge wrote down words and phrases wherever he went, and with that knowledge of Irish which made all our country idioms easy to his hand, found it so rich a thing that he had begun translating it into fragments of the great literatures of the world, and had planned a complete version of the Imitation of Christ. It gave him imaginative richness, and yet left him the sting and tang of reality. How vivid in his translation from Villon are those eyes with a big gay look out of them would bring folly from a great scholar. More vivid surely than anything in Swinburne's version, and how noble those words, which are yet simple country speech, in which his Petrarch mourns that death came upon Laura just as time was making chastity easy, and the day came when lovers may sit together and say out all things that are in their hearts. And my sweet enemy was making a start, little by little, to give over her great weariness, the way she was wringing a sweet thing out from my sharp sorrow.